One day we got to get the company trip to Ohio so I can get that off my list.
We should do that soon. Do the I'm going at the end of July. It'll be nice up there.
I mean, honestly, that could be doable. My trip with them, it's only 5 days. It's over July 4th.
I'll show you all around.
End of July could be definitely doable.
I will keep you posted because then a lot of things.
I just want to go to that karaoke bar with your handicapped guy.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a story, man. I don't think I could tell that on the podcast.
What was his song of choice? Down with the Sickness?
No, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. All right, I'll tell it. So I used to go to this place that I lived really close to. Some of you might know it. It's called Tina's. They consider it a nightclub, but it's really just a karaoke bar. And you'd go in there and usually get there at like past midnight. And it's 4 cinder block walls. That's it. There's really no windows or anything like that. It's a shithole. But it's fun. People go in there and it's kind of like the after party. And there's a super nice guy that hangs out there with Down syndrome. And he doesn't drink, of course. They don't serve him, but he drinks a lot of cans of Coke. And he puts his name on there to sing karaoke, but he only sings one song. And that song is Let the Bodies Hit the Floor.
Drowning Pool.
Yes. So like every hour, you can pretty much guarantee that he's going up there. And I've actually seen him get cut off from drinking Coke, too, because he gets a little rowdy. But, yeah, you walk in there and see he's got to be in his 40s, maybe 50s, just screaming, Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. Because he doesn't really know any part of the song. He just kind of mumbles. But then once Let the Bodies Hit the Floor comes, he knows every word.
Well, my favorite part is how he's singing it every hour.
Yes.
Who's allowing that?
Well, I mean,
that
it depends on how busy it is, right? He gets on the list as soon as he signs off. So, like, if there's a lot of people that want to sing, it could be a few hours before we hear Let the Bodies Hit the Floor again. But, yeah, I mean, if you go in there and there's only, like, 25 people, you're going to get Let the Bodies Hit the Floor about every hour.
You think he's still alive?
I don't know. He's got to be. He's so funny because we always cheer him on. And then, like, I'll buy him a can of Coke so he doesn't pay for it. And, he's invited me back to his house like so many times. He's like, I got chips and I got 2 liters. And we're like, oh, no, next time. But everybody's really nice. It's a fun time. But that is definitely one of the staples of Tina's nightclub in Ohio City. So we'll take you there if you go on the Ohio trip. But before we get started, I had a bunch of questions I wanted to ask a realtor. But I did want to cover a couple of housekeeping items that I want to clip out of this and get out really quick. So this is Memorial Day weekend coming up. Today's Thursday, so Memorial Day weekend's in just a couple days. No barbecue and mingle. Anytime there's a holiday during the week, we take a little break on barbecue and mingle. So this clip should be up in the next hour, just to remind everybody that we're taking this weekend off. But make sure that you show up for next Friday, because in addition to the barbecue and mingle that we always do, we've started a new trend. We're brewing beer.
Woo!
And so we brewed our first beer last barbecue and mingle. It's blonde ale, and should be ready right about that time. Not this coming Friday, but the next Friday. And in addition to having people try it, we want to start putting out a poll for votes to vote on what beer we make. So nice little fun thing we're doing in addition to just getting people together to network, mingle, and talk about business. And then the other thing I wanted to cover is Chase and I are looking for people for our podcast, Market on the Rocks.
Yeah, we are.
Basically want to find people that are interesting, right? We've kind of chatted a little bit about it. We keep things somewhat real estate related for each other, but I want to talk to people outside of real estate.
Yeah, we've had entrepreneurs. I'm open to celebrities of any sorts. Anyone who has a business, anyone who's doing something cool, and they're modest and humble about it.
There it is. And then for me personally, I'm always trying to get just real estate agents on that we can, do content for. So if you're a real estate agent, you feel like you have topics you want to cover, or just create content so that you can boost up your social media, reach out to me directly. I'm here to help. We've got all the equipment, the ideas, and all the good things. So let me know.
There is no cheaper and easier way to get content for your Instagram.
Thank you.
You don't have to think about questions. You don't have to film anything.
We got you covered. So now on to my questions for Chase. So first thing that I've been noticing lately in the real estate market is that for the last almost 2 years, not much has changed industry-wide, right? Property values are up like 2%. Interest rates have fluctuated maybe 0.5% up or down in any direction. And it's probably been the longest time since I've been in the career that there just hasn't been much change. But what I have noticed a lot lately is I've never seen in the last 2 years more real estate agents change their brokerage. And so I wanted to chat a little bit about that, just in regards to, your thoughts on maybe the why and what's going on in real estate where we're seeing so many agents that are, changing brokerages. I'm even seeing to the extent where agents are leaving brokerages, coming back to the brokerage that they were originally at. What are your thoughts?
Like one of my previous brokers told me, activity brings activity. And I think there's a lot of agents that have been sitting, waiting for a deal to fall in their lap for 5 months now, probably since the start of the year. They probably planned their goals and they said, I'd like to have a reasonably decent year. I'd like to sell 25 to 30 houses. And they realize, oh, it's May and I've only sold one. And they're probably saying, okay, I need to change up something. But they're just not quite motivated enough to go knock on doors or write letters or pick up the phone and call. But then you have these other brokerages that are saying, well, we need to grab some more agents before the market gets hotter, which eventually it will. And they're promising things like, hey, join our team. We have Zillow Flex. Or join our team. We're going to hand you all of your leads. We're going to spoon feed you all of this technology. We're going to, they're going to try to win you over with free clients. I don't hear of that many brokerages that are paying absorbent amounts of money to acquire agents right now. I'm sure it's still happening here and there.
You mean like a signing bonus?
Yeah.
Right.
In the hotter markets, we see that a little more often. But I think there's a lot of agents that are feeling pretty stagnant in their business, and they're thinking, look, if I can make a hop over to a better producing team, I can, ride their coattails and hopefully make some more business.
So you mentioned how agents, you mentioned that you've been at more than one brokerage yourself. How much difference do you feel there really is from brokerage to brokerage? Like, if you're not doing well at the current brokerage that you are at as a real estate agent, is changing a brokerage going to make a difference?
I'm going to specify one thing first. I was at one brokerage in Baton Rouge, I was at one in Seattle, and I was at one in Austin. Have not changed since. So to get me to change to your brokerage, I'm going to need a fat signing bonus. But I don't think much changes unless you're going from being just an agent at the brokerage to joining an established team.
Gotcha.
So if let's say you were going to, I'm just going to throw a random name out there. Let's say you were going to Keller Williams and I'm going to join the James Willoughby team.
Okay.
Well, your team leader is spoon feeding you a lot of listings. And for the most part, you're able to just kind of hop on those coattails and ride that out.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, really the only difference that you may experience from brokerage to brokerage is leads.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you might get some additional support. If you're going from one big box name to another big box name, but you're not joining a team, and you're probably going to feel just as isolated as you were before. Maybe they might have, some type of brokerage meetings or something where you get to communicate with other people. But for the most part, most people are working from home anyway. I don't hear about people going to work at their brokerage office that often.
So as an analogy, right, I feel like I'm not seeing a lot of successful agents that are crushing it right now in the last 2 years switch brokerages. It kind of seems to be the agents that are looking for more success. And so with that being said, do you feel like a lot of the success that comes from agents is pretty much their success? Or I guess what I'm getting at is how much credit can you really give to a brokerage for an individual agent's success on maybe like a scale to 1 to 10 or something, in your opinion?
Maybe like a 1 or 2 out of 10.
Right. So 10 to 12%.
It's hardly going to make a difference what brokerage you're at. I mean, yeah, it really comes down to that agent, their networking, their work ethic. You know, the reward for hard work is more work. And
There you go.
the agents who are putting in the work are going to reap
Receive
the
more
reward
work,
of
yeah.
it. Yeah, you're what you water grows. I'm going to see how many of these analogies I can fit
Let's
in
go.
here. 12-week year.
We'll get them clipped out.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's just a fact of the matter of it's the agent that's going to do the producing, not their brokerage. And you'd be really lucky if your brokerage handed you a lead every once in a while. But the agents that are really crushing it, I think they know, from other businesses outside of real estate that you don't want to sell your business when it's down. You want to sell your business when it's up. So if you're
Agreed.
going to move brokerages, you're going to wait for that good signing bonus or at least a really good split from them based on what you have under contract, what new builds you have under contract, what listings you're holding on to right now. You're not going to want to move while you have nothing in your pipeline.
I love that you said that because I find that most people feel that the time to move is when they have nothing in their pipeline because, they feel like, oh, well, I don't have anything that's going to be taken from me. And I would totally agree with you. I mean, in the mortgage industry, it operates very similarly. In high times is when you want to move, not in low times. And I guess knowing as many agents as what are your thoughts on the agent that maybe has 5 years in the business and has been with 4 to 5 different brokerages? Like, what if you were their mentor? What would you say to him or her?
If we change the scenario to a person who's been in the dating world for 5
like
years
this.
and has had 20 different significant others, you'd probably say, hey, don't you think it might be time to focus on yourself a little bit?
Look inward.
So I think if there's an agent that is hopping around to multiple different brokerages, to me, it doesn't mean the agent, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the agent. I think it just feels like they're looking for another stepping stone where they should, in my opinion, I think they should instead be focusing in on their own business. I hope that the brokerage they end up landing at provides some form of mentorship or coaching. I've been very public about getting out of the Tom Ferry coaching, but I was in it for 3 years, and I think it's best for a brand new agent who's really trying to find their footing. And you can still be a brand new agent after 5 years.
Oh yeah.
If you're hop into a different brokerage every year, you're still learning something here. So yeah, I think what they really need is mentorship and to hone in on their own skills.
Well, and I want to touch on one more thing, and then we can kind of stop beating a dead horse. But I loved that you mentioned like you want to sell when your stock is high, right? So we all know that we came out of a really good market in like 2020, 2021, even 2022, and the market was great, and I did not see a lot of movement. And what's interesting about that is if your analogy holds true, and I think it does, why didn't we see more movement in 2020 through 2022 then when everyone's stock was arguably high? Why are we seeing so much more movement now when everyone's stock is low?
I think my only answer for that is in 2021, if you were a full-time working agent, you were busy all the time. There was minimal downtime, and I guess you just didn't really have time to think about the idea of, well, if I were to move brokerages, now I got to change all this paperwork with all these different people, and it just feels like a lot of work at the time. But that was the time I used to hear about brokerages acquiring agents or teams for a lot of money because they were basing it on their pipeline and the production that they had recently done.
Sure.
I think right now, brokerages might be saying, hey, this is the time we want to be recruiting, knowing that we've been in a pretty flat market for a while. And, there's only 2 ways it can go. I mean, yeah, it could continue going flat, or we could see prices tick up, inventory lower, and everyone's working a lot harder to get deals done, but we're doing more deals. Or we could see, prices make a downfall, and then agents are still doing a lot more deals because then homes are cheaper.
Gotcha.
So I think these brokerages are preparing for there to be a lot more sales to be done.
So the answer is people are more reactive than proactive.
I think the agents are reactive. I think the brokers who have been in the recruiting game for a long time are more proactive.
Agreed. So, yeah, that was just one of the things I was looking for topics that I could talk about because so much hasn't changed. There's not much to talk about, but that is when we talk about change, I've been seeing a lot of that. And then moving on to the other question that I wanted to ask was, I've been having a lot of conversations with real estate agents and they've been saying, oh man, I'm really listing heavy and I'm having a tough time moving these listings. And, the listing market in general has been a tough one. And for me as a lender, I've been losing a lot of deals to builders because the builders are offering all of these incentives and everything like that. And it's really hard to compete when the builders offer the incentives, but then they're only available with their, their lender. And so I kind of had this like aha moment where I thought, here you've got people with existing homes that are selling, the listing agent, and what's it all about? It's all about the price, right? But then you take the builders and what are they doing? They're focusing everything on the payment. Mm-hmm. And so what do you think is stopping listing agents from kind of taking a page from the builder? Because nobody buys a new build home because they love the price. They're buying the new build home because they love the incentives. Mm-hmm. If I had to tell you how many times that, hey, Matt, sorry, we decided to move forward with the builder. They were offering some pretty amazing incentives. It's never, oh, the prices on the new builds are way lower, or, oh, the homes themselves are just way better. No, it's all about the builder was offering incentives. So when I look at like listing descriptions and everything, I'm not seeing a lot of stuff where listing agents are having conversations with sellers and working out net sheets and saying, okay, if you want to net X amount of dollars, why don't we go ahead and list for this and then offer like an APR is as low as $499 on this property right in the description, knowing off the rip that this, that's an opportunity to have that baked in. I feel like I'm not seeing enough of that. What are your thoughts on that?
I see where you're coming from, and I would definitely say right when the market began to turn, every single listing, there was some type of comment in the remarks. I would say something like 2-1 buy down available, or we'll give you this interest rate if you buy this,
okay,
or we'll give you this amount of credits. The thing is, that's not searchable on MLS. I mean, yeah, you could click each individual listing, see if they wrote something about it. But I think most buyers agents know, if you want an incentive, you just ask for it.
How do you think right now from a marketing standpoint, which for those of you out there that don't know, Chase has a degree in marketing. And so we know that, and you know this better than I do, that buyers are somehow, they're not going to the new build and all of a sudden finding out that there's incentives.
They already knew about it.
They already know, or their agent is leading with that, right? Because I know some agents out there, you know who you are, like you specialize in new builds, and we can talk about that.
We should.
And you're pushing these incentives before they even view the house. So the thing that I always think about is true or false. Any home has the ability to give seller concessions.
Absolutely.
To buy rates down, or it doesn't have to be a new build. It could be any home. So why is it that the average consumer is fully aware of the potential incentives and low rates that a builder offers, but seems to be unaware of the fact that, any home could potentially come with a 4.99 interest rate?
I think, believe it or not, there are probably actually plenty of people who would prefer a brand new home.
Okay, so it is the new build.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty rare that, there's often buyers who I'm showing both resale and new builds, and usually once you've looked at the same price point of both, most people are going to say, well, the new build is brand new. There's not a single thing that's wrong with it. And, it's coming with, 1, 2, 10 warranty. And then on top of that, they're offering basically the same price as a resale, but this builder's offering $40,000 in concessions. And if it's a quick move-in home, so the builder's already completed it,
Right.
they probably offer the most concessions. If it's a to-be-built, then, I also get to add my own,
Touches.
cosmetic touches to it. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are actually looking to be in a place like Easton Park or something like that where they're building new build homes. And if you look at the price of the resale versus the new home, resale that's 2 or 3 years old, it's probably more expensive than the new one.
I gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't think people are saying I like the resale home better, but the builder's offering me concession. I think they say I want this brand new build, and sorry, Matt, you can't offer what they're offering.
What are you losing out on a new build, if anything, with clients? I mean, location, I believe, would have to be one. Does that seem to be a sticking point for anybody anymore, or people just want to move wherever you'll put them?
Oh, it's absolutely a sticking point. I mean, I will tell any client your most important things is the location, the floor plan, and the price you paid for it.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things that can't really be moved.
That's true.
Location, definitely. Price you paid for it, that can't really change.
Yeah.
You could always pay it down over time. Floor plan, yeah, it could change a little bit, but it's the most expensive thing to do. But what was the original question?
Oh, so, I mean, again, it sounds like all things considered, at certain price points, people are always going to gravitate toward the new one. What are you losing out on a new build if,
When someone asks me, should I look at new or resale, I always say with resale, we can negotiate a lot harder.
Okay.
New builds, there's very little negotiation that can be done. And there will always be agents that post on their social media that they negotiated with the builder and got such better price.
Right.
That's called the builder is already offering that.
Yeah.
And you just want to promote it as trying to say that you're really good for showing up to the meeting and asking a question. So we can negotiate harder on the resale. Obviously, the resales are done sooner. And usually if it's a resale, we can find, a location that's closer to the city center, or in a more established neighborhood, or usually on a bigger lot. With new builds, there's hardly any new build neighborhoods that are close to city centers. They keep having to move further and further. The lot size is getting smaller and smaller. And
well, I guess more than anything, I mean, I definitely wasn't gearing this toward me losing out on the transaction due to it going new build. I'm thinking more of the agents that I've had conversations with over the last couple of weeks who are telling me they're having a difficult time selling their listings. And now this brings me to a question I didn't even think of. So as an agent, let's say you've got 3 or 4 listings right now. Are you telling me that agent is also thinking, damn it, I'm competing with all these new builds?
If you are trying to sell a house that's in a neighborhood where they're still building other homes, prepare to disappoint your clients.
Okay. What about in existing neighborhoods? I mean, a lot of the buyers that we've worked with are basically just considered and staying in what I would consider like the metroplex of Austin. So if you're closer to, let's just say closer to downtown versus, I don't know, being like 15, 20 miles south or north or whatever. If you're that listing agent who has 2 or 3 listings, are you going, God damn these new builds? I just can't compete with them because of all the incentives that they're offering.
No, if they're in drastically different neighborhoods, I don't consider, let's say I have a listing in, I don't know, Onion Creek. I'm not saying, oh darn, those new builds out in Kyle.
Okay.
That's not a competition. If someone wants to be in Onion Creek, they want to be in Onion Creek. If someone wants to be in Whispering Oaks, they're not also looking at new builds in Manor.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if listing agents feel competition with new builds.
The only time that there's, and I think I could speak for any listing agent here, I think the only time there's competition is when you're listing a home that's, 2-3 years old and it's in the same neighborhood where they're building brand new homes for cheaper now. Because your client's like, well, shit, I have no equity in this because, I used all those builder incentives to buy it. I put the minimum down payment. They're now selling homes for less. But they're like, I don't want to be completely underwater when I sell.
So as a salesperson, if your job is to sell houses, why is it that the builders are selling houses at almost double the rate that people who are selling existing homes are? You're telling me that it 100% just has to do with the fact that the home is new.
Well, if you are choosing a 2-year-old house versus a brand new house, and the brand new house is not only brand new, but is also at a lesser price and offering incentives, whereas the 2-year-old house is offering you nothing because there's a seller that doesn't want to lose all their money.
Right.
It seems like a no-brainer for the buyer.
I would agree. So, I mean, is it debatable that those aren't comparable sales then?
I'm sure the appraiser will say they're comparable sales. I think when we're pricing the homes to put it on the market, that's something I would tell my sellers immediately is, hey, look, this is what Starlight Homes is still selling the houses for out. This is what KB is still selling for.
I guess I'm pushing back on your idea that I think that listing agents, regardless of where you're selling, are competing more with builders than they think. I think you've kind of mentioned it, and I could be wrong, but I think people are willing to make concessions on location and yard size and everything like that to move further away to get those incentives.
I think additionally on top of that, I think people are more scared of home maintenance than you think.
I would agree with that.
Especially first-time buyers.
How many first-time home buyers, or better yet, how many new builds have you seen that have had problems in the first 12 to 24 months?
Well, they have warranties for almost all of it. I mean, the first 12, you have a bumper-to-bumper warranty. You scratch a wall, they'll come fix it.
That's pretty cool.
In the first 24 months, it's any major appliance, electrical, plumbing, roof. And then 10 years, you have foundation.
But those are incentives.
Those are incentives, but I mean, they're included in
Right.
every new build. I mean, every builder's doing the same warranty programs.
I'm just going to come out and say it. I think the builders, as far as selling homes, are smoking the salespeople, not the sellers themselves, but the people like real estate agents that are selling. I think that they are smoking you guys in terms of marketing. Plain and simple.
I agree.
And
They have much bigger budgets too.
That's true, but not necessarily because of, anything other than they're marketing the crap out of their product better. And I'm seeing the numbers. That's what I brought it up today, was because I literally read an article that pretty much said, I didn't come up with this. And I was like, damn, I never thought about that. Here I'm always frustrated about losing the loan to the to the builder. But you never hear real estate agents go, God damn, builders, they're really screwing us over on the listing side, of course. Because if you're a buy side rep, like you love the builder, they're taking over and taking care of you. But if I had 10 or 12 listings in Austin, in Onion Creek, for example, or even existing listings in some of the cities, and we see a lot of these communities going up in like Buda and Kyle and everything like that, I think you do need to kind of think, God damn, these builders, they're screwing up my game here.
Yeah.
And how do you fix that? And I think, to your point, that's a tough conversation to have with a seller.
See, I love getting a call that someone wants to list their house, but the call I really don't want to get is someone who I sold a new build to 2 years ago, because it's going to be a disappointing conversation when we talk.
Right.
And those people, I'm probably going to say, hey, let's make it a rental for a couple years, unless you are okay with losing some money.
Well, we've talked about it on the show. I mean, if you own a home for less than 5 years, you're running a big risk.
And I tell
regardless of any market.
I tell anyone who's buying a house, are you comfortable staying here for 5 years? And always at the time they are.
Yeah. Then life happens.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that works that way.
Anything else you want to cover?
I think the other reason that the builders are doing so much better in marketing is, if I have a listing, well, that's my only house to sell over there. If someone doesn't want a 3-bed, 2-bath with 1,010 square feet, well, sorry, they don't they're not buying this house.
Right.
Whereas a builder, they have a whole neighborhood full of different floor plans to sell. So, they can attack the market from the people who want to be in the 300,000s for a 3-bedroom or in the 800,000s for a 5-bedroom, if we're in the case of like Easton Park. So the builders, someone like Taylor Morrison can just put in a whole lot more money into marketing this because they have a lot more inventory to sell.
I see that. Yeah, it's definitely been the builders' time to shine for the last like 3 years. They've been crushing it.
Whether the market's up or down, I feel like builders always have an incentive. And I think there's a lot that agents need to take note of that they can try implementing in their marketing. But at the end of the day, I could throw a whole bunch of incentives into the remarks on my listing, and it's up to whatever the buyer's agent wants to write in their offer.
Well, that's a good point because you can only do so much. It's really about what the buyer's agent is going to be able to explain to the buyer and how it works. But I guess here's another quick thing that pertains to this. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of listing agents that are offering like seller financing, which is kind of tongue in cheek of saying like, hey, we're going to give you a lower rate. So they're doing it that way. Because I've legitimately had people contact me and even ask me like, hey, I'm not even a real estate agent, but hey, I'm looking to buy a home, but I'm only doing seller financing. And what do you know about that? And I'm like, wait a second, what's the why behind that? And they're like, lower rates. So it's a tongue-in-cheek way of just producing an incentive saying, hey, we're going to provide a lower interest rate. Call us.
Well, I mean, seller financing appeals to anyone who can't get a mortgage.
That too.
Whether your income is not qualified, your citizenship requirements are not qualified, your credit score is really bad. I sold a $1.1 million 9-bedroom house through seller financing.
Crazy.
The couple was a blended family, combined had 10 kids. Both, the husband and wife had both recently been divorced, and they allowed their credits to go to shit because of their divorce, and they were blaming it on the divorce. We discussed this last episode. Yeah. But, I mean, combined, they earned like $30-something thousand a month from their jobs. So they qualified for the seller financing, just as in like qualified for the payment. But
how long ago did that close?
Oh, gosh, this was like 2023, probably.
Are they still in that house, you think?
I sure hope so.
Okay. I'm just wondering. I always love to follow stories like that and see how that all plays out.
House was a shit show.
When you have 12 people in a house.
It was a 9-bedroom house, but it was made as a 5-bedroom. So they basically converted the attic and basically like made an addition to the upstairs to add four more bedrooms.
Very nice.
It was gross. The house, every time I showed that house, I'd have to clean up cockroaches, like dead ones off the floor. And I mean, it'd be 30, 40. I'd just grab a cup and just... Anyway, but last thing about promotion, going back to marketing degree, there's 4 different ways to sell an item. There's the product, what you're selling, the price, the placement, and the promotion.
Okay.
And things like seller financing and incentives, that's your promotion. You can always change the price, which is the easiest trigger to pull, unless you're working with the seller on the other side, which they're going to make that the toughest one. You can find new ways to promote it, but at the end of the day, it's a house. Most people are finding it on home scrolling websites or through their agent. How many people are finding a house through an Instagram video and saying, this is it?
I would think
it happens here and there. I mean, my business coach was selling, he sells homes between like $8 to $50 million in Orange County, California. And his brokerage spends a lot of money on social media videos and things. I mean, they have directors and actors and producers for these videos. But when you're selling a $50 million house, you got to just put it out there to anyone. So they're mostly doing this to send it to China. And then, last thing would be the product. So if you paint the house, stage the house, clean it up, do landscape, and make that product better. So before I put any listing on the market, I want to make sure we have the best possible product that house can be.
What do you think's a bigger obstacle? Getting a seller to come down on the price, or getting a seller to improve the property?
it is easier to get them to improve the property, unless we're talking about like doing major rehab. But if I told a seller, if I asked the seller, hey, we could go down on price by $2,500, or you could spend your Saturday and maybe part of your Sunday redoing all the landscaping in your front yard, they're always going to choose a back-breaking labor one.
That's interesting. Doesn't surprise me, but also interesting.
'Cause I had a seller of this house that I've had on the market forever, and I told him, I said, look, in its current condition, it's worth about $250,000. I said, you could put in like 20 grand and it could be worth like 280. And I was like, but then it's going to sit on the market a lot longer because you're competing with other flipped houses and it's still not going to be as good as those. Or you could be on the market for a day and I could find you a buyer that's going to do the flip themselves. And of course the seller's like, no, I'd rather put in 20 grand for the potential of making an extra 10.
Yeah.
But
I'm always kind of amazed because what I'm dealing with a lot lately, here's a topic. I have been seeing way more people that are, buying that currently own homes. And we have a program that's available that allows people to, purchase their current home before they sell their other home. And I've been doing quite a bit of it. And, I don't go on listing appointments or anything along those lines, but I'm really shocked at the amount of people that are, this is just a statement. I'm really shocked at the amount of people that currently own a home that are looking at other homes that are totally like kind of shitting all over the homes that they're looking at. Oh, this one needs this and it needs that. It's, it's overpriced, but then their house needs a ton of work. And it's almost like they're moving out of their house into this new house because they know they need to do all of this work. And it's just easier for them to move into another home. And it isn't, again, you are nodding your head because you see this all the time. I don't see this part of it as much. And I'm seeing so much of it lately. And it is very interesting to me, the amount of people that want to move into a new home for themselves. It's not a brand new home, but a newer home for themselves that is in way better condition. And they're trying to make concessions and everything. And their home's like totally outdated. Landscaping's not up to, today. They've got a little bit of a hoarding problem because the half of the 2-car garage is completely full of just boxes. It's interesting.
I've had that plenty, and I have a couple like that now as well. And
what's that all about? Where does that come from?
I think it's just if they're looking at making a move, they want to make sure, when they're going to be paying a whole lot more, that it's something they really love.
Yeah.
They don't want to move into something equivalent to what they already have. In that case, why pack up?
Well, I guess I can understand that part of it.
But why can't they clean up their own house?
Why can't they see, like, it's such double talk, right? It's such like, oh, look at this, look at that. I understand that part. You're about to spend a lot of money on a nicer home and everything, and you're kind of being nitpicky, and you're thinking that it's that part to me I can kind of understand. But how can you speak that way when it's time to sell and you're like, well, this house is worth way more than that? And it's like, well, which is it? Like,
yeah, everyone assumes what they have is the best. Every single dog owner will say, I have the cutest dog on earth.
not me.
They don't. Like, there are very few people where I'm like,
Right.
oh, yeah, your dog is the cutest. But I don't know.
I love my dog, but she's definitely not the cutest.
But I feel like people don't see the hoarding situations or the broken things in their own house. They've been living with it so long, they don't even notice. But then also, I think that's something in their brain that's telling them, I want to move, because they're looking at these other houses that are clean. They're like, ooh, man, my house is just as clean.
So weird. People are so weird. I just, the inability to, like, be honest with yourself.
Those same people are going to negotiate really hard to get the seller of the new house to make repairs. But then when a buyer wants to buy their house, they're going to shake their head at everything.
And again, like, I get the strategy behind it, but the lack of self-awareness in regards to being like, oh my God, like, we're saying one thing over here and we're doing another over here. I mean, I believe by definition, it's just like pure hypocrisy. The amount of hypocrisy that I've been seeing with my buyers that are selling is like, it's interesting, because I'm dealing with them on the buy side, and I'm used to seeing the client being like, well, we want this repair, we want that repair. And then I'm like, how's everything going on the sale of your house? They're like, oh, the buyers are assholes. I'm thinking like, well, what are they doing? They're asking for everything. They're being ridiculous. And I pull out the ROC on their deal, and I'm like, you guys asked for like 19 things to be fixed on this property. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Same thing in the dating world. People are like, oh, I don't like them. They're kind of fat. It's like, oh, you're also kind of fat.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Whether you know it or not.
That is interesting. Real estate is a lot like dating, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess.
You seem like you reflected there.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, the one thing that we're not dating in real estate is the rate.
Oh yeah, yeah. Date the rate. Was it marry the home, date the rate? God, I'm glad I never like pushed that so hard. Longest date ever.
We're still on the first date and it hasn't ended.
I've been
Actually, the first date has now ended. The arm is over. Now that date has forced you to buy drinks and dessert, and they won't leave your house now.
Exactly. And then you try to, you've looked for opportunities to get them out, and you realize they have squatter rights. It's funny because I write birthday cards for everybody, and then I kind of look at what their interest rate is and everything like that. And I was writing a birthday card for a client that I closed their transaction in the fall of 2022, right? So we're coming up on 3 years. And they had I want to say it, a 5.875%. And this was the original date to rate. So here we are almost 3 years later. And 5.875 is a good rate, don't get me wrong. But I remember when people were clenching their teeth at a 5.875, and they were like, oh, and you had loan officers and real estate agents being like, don't worry. That 5.875, we're going to refinance that. Rates are going to come down in the next year or two. Here we are 36 months later. I've already written you 3 birthday cards, and you're still dating that rate.
I had to write that down. You tried to date the rate, and now it has squatters' rights. That's going to be a tweet.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I wanted to keep this one short. It's Ina's birthday weekend.
Ooh.
So if you end up seeing this podcast before Memorial Day, reach out and wish her a happy birthday.
And if you see Matt by a pool,
Yep.
know it's for somebody's birthday, because he
That's
doesn't
right.
take time off like that.
Nope. Oh, yeah, and that's the last thing. Public service announcement. I will be working all week and weekend. So if you are a real estate agent, can't get a hold of your lender over the holiday, hit me up. I'd be happy to do an approval for your buyer. And make it out to the next barbecue. Barbecue and mingle with home brewed beer.
Yeah. So while you're at your barbecues on Memorial Day, drop my name in the hat. just say, hey,
I love
you
it.
looking for a house?
I'm going to edit this one now. It's going to be out tomorrow. Chase, always a pleasure. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We'll do till the next one.
I'll see you in the hallway.